Reed Hastings says optimism is the engine of achievement. And we're optimistic about quantum for sure in the long term, but in the short term, there's a lot of things to be following right now. For example, you look at the energy consumption, processing data, uh, we're going to see them innovate in ways that classical computers cannot. But if you think about classical computers, they used to be entire buildings. And today, that same power from classical computers could fit on your Apple Watch. And so the market's shaping up to where, if we're looking at the quantum market today, it's maybe inefficient right now. We're still early, but it's shaping up for a nice future. And we just wrapped up. We were going over the quantum market this morning in our daily live trading sessions. If you ever want to catch these moves with us in real time, we still got the Cyber Monday that's almost over. So if you want to tune in at Market Open and get a free t-shirt, you can join us there Monday through Friday in the second link in the description below. So let's take a look at where the quantum market's at currently. Most quantum stocks, including QBTS, Rigetti, IONQ, these are some of the top, have sold down to a previous resistance level and near their 200-day moving average. You can see that here with QBTS, that we started covering them around $1 a share last year. They surged to $46 and they've sold off to 21. Now, I still hold QBTS and I have long-term positions, but as you can see, they've had some downward trends and they're at this previous resistance and they're holding at $20 a share, looking to bounce and hold above $20 a share, as previous resistance oftentimes acts as a support. See that overall uptrend that they're trying to hold that they've had for the last year. If you take a look at RGTI, they're currently at the previous resistance that they established back in January of last year. We've been covering them since $1 a share and they've surged to $58. I still hold our long-term positions. In fact, right now you can see on the right, we still have a medium-term position here in Robinhood, and we have some long-term positions in our Charles Schwab, and we're still up about 130% from entry on Rigetti. So it's at this previous resistance on the 200-day moving average as well, kind of near this level where it's looking to validate it and continue some of this uptrend. Same thing could be true with IONQ. Kind of see the pattern. All the quantum stocks fairly similar. IONQ has moved slower than others, but has built more market cap than others. And you can see they've been in the same kind of move. They got that previous resistance level, maybe even a little more conservative, that they pulled down fully to that 200-day moving average. And they're looking to continue up. And they're at a resistance currently that is at $50 a share that they had trouble breaking above back in May, all the way through the summer and into the fall until September, really, when they started to break out. And so, pretty similar story on most quantum stocks. And this is the story that is groundbreaking because it started off very high drama with all of the big tech companies kind of disregarding quantum, even Nvidia, disregarding quantum at the beginning of this year. That was actually this crash back here in January of this year when all the stocks corrected from, about 50% downward. And then since then, they've more than 10x'd most of them from those prices that they reached back in after that crash, which is great because when that happened, I was calling my friends and family because I just went to the conference and I even got my mom to buy some shares of quantum along with my dad. And I said, guys, you got to look at this big sell-off because the tech companies are saying one thing but doing another thing. And they might tell you that it's really far away. And the articles that you see online is that it's all hype and all this, but they aren't looking at the compound effect. And they aren't looking at, nevertheless, whether it's very commercially viable and super valuable, in which case, I'm personally using it in our quantum analysis over in our AI company. For example, I could, pull up a company. I had SPY pulled up here, and I can get a quantum analysis from IONQ, and it will actually go through and search for, the best quantum time frame that makes the most sense from a confidence perspective. Now, it needs some work. It's tough to integrate quantum into commercial applications right now, but I think it's the future. And so anyway, I get my parents to buy, get my mom to buy, and I personally bought too. My wife and I'm like, hey, we should probably get some. And it's been a great investment, and it's been really well. But now you see this sell down, and one of the things that shifted was the actions of the companies went from kind of in the quiet, in the dark, to just in the last 6 months, you see Amazon come out with chips, Microsoft introduced chips, Google doubled down on quantum, and then Nvidia recently introduced their NVQ link, which is their uh, connectivity for quantum and GPU computing that they added for 17 quantum companies and 9 scientific labs. So the ability for companies mentioned here, like you can see the companies here that are actually mentioned, including some government divisions. You could see you got Rigetti along with IONQ, so those are publicly traded. You got Q Blocks and QEra, Atom Computing, and some others. And you'll notice you don't see the Quantum Computing Inc. because I don't think that they are legitimate. A lot of people talk about QUBT. I don't think they're legitimate for quantum in the way that people think that they are. But you can see Pascal and some other ones. And I went to a few quantum conferences this last year. We went to CES, we went to the Qubits conference where we got to meet the CEO of D-Wave and some other great creators like the Quantum Bull. And then we got to also go to Albuquerque and see that conference there with a lot of top quantum companies. And I've found that what they say in the news is not really congruent with the sheer foundation, the massive foundation that is being built, big foundation that's being built for quantum. And if Nvidia's involved now in October or November of 2025, this was just published here, and then into December today, you have to pay attention, and you have to understand that the value is a long-term build, but is obviously something that the most innovative companies in the world are paying attention to. It's just like when you started hearing conversations around AI in 2015 to 2020, and it was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. We're probably 20 years away. Imagine a world where, yeah, AI. But what happened is this big explosion in 2020. We might be there right now in 2025, and the same as 2015, and we're starting to approach quantum. You hear people talk about, oh, hype this, hype that. Oh, there's some quantum stocks in this. Oh, it's not really getting used. Maybe this. Oh, Nvidia's kind of working on it. And then 2030 rolls around, and quantum computing is this like massive revolution getting plugged into many different businesses. And so I think that's something you got to consider, is that the conversation is pretty far off from real world, meaning I actually think there is instances where it's way overhyped for sure, but the conversation around timelines um, may be inaccurate due to the compound effect and the massive surge. If you look at all these companies, did you see a big revenue surge in these companies over the last year? And the answer is no. If you look at the quantum stocks like Rigetti, you look at the quantum stocks here, like even IONQ or QBTS, none of them saw notably big increases in their revenues. QBTS, in fact, their revenue went up in this last quarter. They're up to 3.7 million. That's not very much for a $7.75 billion market cap. Same thing with IONQ. You look at the revenue, and the revenue is still only 39 million with a negative net income of over a billion, and negative net income of that much, and then they have $17 billion market cap. You're looking at the financials, and yeah, of course, I'm asking myself, oh well, what's this? What do you know about Warren Buffett, and what do you know about longer term investments? Is that if you look at this, Warren Buffett, he pays attention more to the balance sheet than he does of the income statements. Warren Buffett, for example, he might tell you to buy an index fund, but he personally invests in individual stocks. How has he done it so successfully? Some of the metrics he'll look at is cash to debt, adjusted debt to equity, okay, preferred stock, retained earnings, 1-2 year earnings, recession-proof growth. I'd say we saw them grow despite 2022 recession, and despite government shutdowns, they got more money. Treasury stock greater than one exists. And so if you look at their financials for most companies, and you look at a company like IONQ, for example, their cash is up to over $4 billion, and their equity is positive equity here. And so when you look at the just debt to equity, things like that, things actually look pretty good for a company in the quantum market if you're looking at these top threes. If you're evaluating the company based on that, evaluating the company based on where they're going and the runway they have. And so given where that's going right now and how things look, we're going to continue to, I'm going to hold in the long term and look for more of a continuation of trend. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe they break pattern here and there, but the quantum market is something you can't avoid. It's something you don't want to miss. And with all the markets, space tech, quantum, defense stocks, AI, you got drone tech, robotics, semiconductors, healthcare, all these new industry innovations that are happening today. If you want to make sure that you're on track and you're up to date and you're feeling good and confident about your portfolio and investing confidently, then again, I would encourage you. You can go and do it on your own. But if you want to join us in our daily live trading sessions we do every day at Market Open, we were just trading this morning Redwire and we were watching APLD. APLD was up big today. Then join us in the second link below for the Cyber Monday offer. And then if you're thinking about getting lifetime access to the daily live trading and getting those resources, the free t-shirt, the lessons, the working with me, if you got questions, we also got 30 millionaires inside of StockMate now that we've verified. If you want to surround yourself with those types of people, you can do that in the second link below. But if you also want to use some of these AI projection charts, when things were going rough in the quantum market, guess what we did? We had our own technology we developed where we could search any stock and look at all the AI models and say, what are these AI models saying about the quantum market? What are these AI models saying about the AI market? And you know what we did? We use Grok, we use OpenAI, and we program them systematically with data like the SEC filings, the news, the technicals, the charts, all of that data that these models otherwise do not have, and we plug it in. And when we plug it in, we get projections. Now, these projections, results vary. There's no guarantee here in the market, but I'll just leave this at that. So if you want to get projections like this, add a watch list, upload your watch list in here, click on any stock like APLD, and then quickly look at Claude, have it load up the results for you here. I can search, again, I'm into APLD here, and I'm getting the projections, and I can see what the next month looks like according to Claude. I can see what the next year looks like and compare all the models at once even. If you want that in your power to be able to have it in your hands and use it right now, well, if you want to get this unlocked, you actually get StockMate as a bonus when you unlock Prophecy in the first link in the description. And you might say, well, okay, those are projections from the top AI models. How are they doing? Well, if you go to that link in the first link of the description, if I go to cash2assets.com/the-machine, we're still in beta, but we're having beta access closed. We would love to track every single thing. But I'll tell you what, months ago I set this page up, and what's funny is this image is an image, for example, and this is an image, for example. And these quantum companies had projections, and you can look at this projection. I'll show you it here. You see this projection here? This was a screenshot from earlier this year when IONQ was at $26 a share and everybody said quantum was way overextended. It was still projecting that they would jump over 58% or 100%, in the next 6 months. And guess what? Based on that projection, they hit the target, $58. IONQ surged past $58. In fact, IONQ wasn't just 58, it was $84. So even the AI was too conservative. And then you look at some of the other images we got. Another one was QBTS. It was at $7 a share. It was anticipating over the next 6 months to go over $13 a share, according to OpenAI in this projection. And guess what? it went more than $13 a share. So I'm not telling you this to say, hey, every single projection is perfect, but I can say we're giving the best models in the world with the best data in the world with the analysis that I personally do into the AI for you. So if you want to grab it, again, you can get all the bonuses like unlimited generations for the next year and unlock all the new models when you're in beta and get white glove experience. So I'll give you a call when you join, and you also get access to our weekly implementation day. You can join us here, start to use the machine. How do you add in, other, I want to see the support and resistance on this stock. How do I add in a widget and be able to see what that looks like? How do I add in the top transactors? I can teach you in our daily or weekly implementation on Thursdays. So if you want to get it, you can join us as soon as this Thursday and get access to StockMate, the daily live trading, as a bonus for free. So 1 year access to this machine. This is Prophecy. We just launched it. Go if you're ready. Take a look at the first link below to get it all. Appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. And of course, if you got thoughts on quantum, drop them down below. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.